Motorsport UK's British Rallycross Championship Five Nations Trophy for 2023 begins at Lydden Hill. It is time for the Suzuki Swift final. Max Weatherly, the man on top form, he lines up on pole position with Paige Bellamy making a step over to the Swifts for this weekend. Damien Constable in his first weekend on the outside of the front row of the grid. Row 2, Kirk Twyman and Chris O'Hara. Thumbs up from the marshals, pointing to the lighting gantry. Let's see what happens down towards the first corner. All eyes to the lights then. Long hole for the drivers, green light on and go. Not bad from Weatherly off the front row, not bad also from Chris O'Hara from the second row of the grid. He gets into the middle of Damien Constable, and likewise Paige Bellamy not making a particularly brilliant start there. Twyman on her inside and getting pushed round is Bellamy then, off and just avoiding the wall, so that's a difficult start to the race for Paige Bellamy. We're used to seeing her competing in the Super National category, and a shame to not see her out in that class here this weekend, and likewise a shame to see her facing the wrong way at the first corner of the final here as well. So it is now Max Weatherly that leads from Chris O'Hara, from then Kirk Twyman, and then Damien Constable in the Lydden Motorsport machine, and Paige Bellamy there stranded by the looks of things at the first corner. So let's see what happens then in this race. There'll certainly be yellow flags if she can't get the car up and running. They may have to drop a red flag here possibly and get the race restarted. Down in towards the bottom bend we go. Does anybody go Joker at this first lap? Yes, possibly. There we do. So there he is, Kirk Twyman into the Joker. Damien Constable follows him through then as they come to the timing line at the front of this race. They're going to have to avoid the stricken Swift here of Paige Bellamy. Nothing she can do to get that car moved by the looks of things. The Gwynne Motorsport hired machine is going nowhere anytime soon as it stands for now. So through the Talladega corner we go. There is Damien Constable. He's a videographer and owns his own company, MMS 360 Media. Used to seeing him trackside with cameras and filming bits and bobs for the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship. Not necessarily behind a wheel, but he does do a few track days, and decided that he would get himself in a race car in the Suzuki Swifts for the first time here this weekend, and great to see him out here competing as well. Likewise, the two stalwarts at the front with Chris O'Hara and Max Weatherly, the race leader. There is Kirk Twyman. As we come down into the bottom bend, Max Weatherly continuing where he left off. There is the yellow flag waving, so no overtaking through this section of the track. That's a definitive area for passing that has been removed because of the stricken car of Paige Bellamy at the first corner. It's quite remarkable really that this race is continuing as it is, but the race direction, they're deeming that it is safe for the race to continue despite the car being stranded at the first corner. And we'll see what happens here with Max Weatherly versus Chris O'Hara. Over the jump we go, down in towards that Devil's Elbow. Very wide entry line there here from Max Weatherly. I think that might have just cost him a little bit of time mid-corner, allowing Chris O'Hara to carry it up, but then Weatherly getting really good momentum up to the top of the hairpin bend there. You can see O'Hara really has got the bit between his teeth, and let's see whether he's going to be able to mount a challenge. The difficulty is, of course, that they've got a whole section of track where they're not able to overtake at this point. So O'Hara, despite wanting to get past, isn't going to be quite able to. They go through the Joker here at the end of this lap. As they come across the timing line once again, O'Hara just losing a bit of momentum. Whether he may have missed a gear or something along the lines of that coming out of that Joker there, because he just dropped about 3 or 4 car lengths, didn't he? Meanwhile, further back, and that's a problem there for Kirk Twyman, and his race is going to come to an early end as well, because right front looks like the arm has gone on the suspension there, and that means that he is going straight into the scene of the accident. Thankfully, just about manages to avoid the barrier and any serious damage. So instead of there being 5 cars circulating, we are now down to 3. It's Max Weatherly, Chris O'Hara, and Damien Constable then, who sit in first, second, and third place respectively. Max Weatherly, what a drive this has been! What a couple of seasons it has been for him in the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship here in the Suzuki Swift. I'd love to see him out in another spec of machine, just to see what his capabilities are going to be like in perhaps something that's a bit more rear-wheel drive, or just a bit of a different kettle of fish to drive, because he's clearly a driver who has a lot of skill. And you can see there the two stricken cars of Paige Bellamy and also Kirk Twyman at that first Talladega corner, so very much no overtaking through those series of bends. Not that there are drivers who are particularly that close to attacking at the moment, but regardless, it's still a point of warning for the drivers to consider. There is Chris O'Hara, second place he sits for now. Great to see him back out in the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship for 2023. His car was on display at the Autosport show earlier on this year, and he of course has been a driver who is held in very high esteem here in this championship. And likewise, Max Weatherly, the race leader. These drivers know each other incredibly well, and they have been racing and competing against one another for a good amount of time now. On to the final lap we go. So Weatherly out in front in the lead of this race, minds his way past Paige Bellamy. Likewise, Chris O'Hara just slotting his way through there as well. There is Damien Constable in the Lydden Motorsport machine, sitting there in a very distant third place, but nonetheless, this is going to be a well-deserved podium finish for him, of course, owing to the problems that Paige Bellamy had, and also to Kirk Twyman as well, with that technical failure, the arm going on the suspension, putting him out of contention. But that just goes to show what it's all about with racing. You have to be there when the checkered flag falls. To finish first you must finish, and that is exactly the principle that Damien Constable, I'm sure, will be thinking about as he sits behind the wheel on his way to a very well-deserved third place finish. Down the bottom of the course we go into Paddock Bend for the final time there. What a drive it has been from Max Weatherly. He has not looked uncomfortable at all throughout this race, and he comes across the line to take the checkered flag at the end of the Suzuki Swift final, followed by Chris O'Hara. And here is Damien Constable then down the bottom of the circuit in towards the final turn we go. And what a great drive on his debut in the Suzuki Swift Championship then to claim a podium finish here in the final. Two drivers didn't make the checkered flag, but one who did was the man who finished on top. Max Weatherly is the winner of the Suzuki Swift final for round one of the Five Nations British Rallycross Championship.